goes by the name of Nicky Hawkins from West Ham Fan TV. Nicky, how you doing, mate?
I must be mad coming on here. I've seen more of your days than I've seen on my own. So, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay. Yes, yeah, as well as can be.
Nicky, I've seen the West Ham fans have... seems like they've been in bloody meltdown for the last 24, 48 hours. What's it been like being inside it?
It is like that. And listen, we will talk about this a bit in a minute. Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on at the club at the moment, and it's not good. It's not good news at the moment. We've got these PSR regulations apparently hanging over us. There's debate whether that's true or not. You know, should we get into you guys? You know, and that'd be a debate. Personally, I don't really care, but I think there should have been a Tottenham tax. But that's the way we should operate with people around us in the league. And it's not great, boys, but we carry on.
Nicky, once upon a time, you came on the channel, we were sitting here right in this very studio, and we were talking about Mohamed Kudus, and you were saying, you know, this guy's a brilliant player. He's going to leave us. He's going to leave us one day, and he's going to go on to bigger and better things and join a top 6 club. And look, true to his word, true to your word, I would say.
It's quite a top 6 club, boys. I know you're playing quite a top 6 club, but no, listen. Mo was, at the time when I was speaking, Mo was electric, and I think you will see that. I think you will see that from Mo. Mo was electric. He came in, he hit the ground running. He's built for the Premier League. He's got all the strength. He's full of running. He's skillful. He was looking to really impress in that season. But what we've seen from Mo since, and this is, I think if we went back to his highlights package from last season, all we'd see is him slapping 3 Spurs players, and that would have been game over. You know what I mean? Because he was that bad, you know. And listen, someone's going to get the best out of him, and we just wasn't getting anything near that. He obviously wants to go and play Champions League football. You boys are playing Champions League football, and all luck to you. And hopefully you can get a player there. And but I think in terms of the deal, I don't think we've got the best deal, and I think that's what a lot of the West Ham fans are angry about, is that we could have pushed it a little bit more. But we are so desperate to sell that this deal just sticks in the back of the throat a little bit.
Is there a rush to sell? Is there a timing issue?
Yes,
what's that about?
We haven't got a pot to piss in, as the old proverb goes. But listen, I think David Sullivan played his hand too early. I really do. We all know Chelsea. He was hoping Chelsea were going to come in and start sort of a bidding war. They're still over in the Club World Cup, so he could have held on for a little while longer. Mo's sort of starting to make some noise now once you get out, which I don't blame him, to be quite honest with you. I know that there's going to be people, that it's going to sting a bit that he's going to Spurs, but the club have made it very clear that they are willing to sell him, and they need to sell him, and they want to sell him to get some money in. So listen, I can't blame the guy really. I don't like it. I don't think I'll ever like it. I don't think if it was the other way around, you guys wouldn't like it. But at the end of the day, we can't really blame the guy, because the club have made it very, very clear. You're not going to be the first one out the door when the transfer window opens. So I think it's a bit pride and ego hurting a little bit at the moment. There's a lot of stuff coming out from your fans. We're going to take your best players. Listen, I mean this with the greatest respect, and it's, a lot of people said I'm salty. A lot of people said sour grapes. A couple of years ago, if you would have been taking Mo Kudus, I'd have said, yeah, absolutely, you're taking our best player. Last year, he was far, far from that, And there wasn't much competition, to be quite honest with you. So, he was far, far from that. He's not, if you look back at my videos, I was always happy for him to go. But I don't think we got the best deal. And I think we've panicked a little bit and shown our hand too early.
But I mean, when Spurs fans are saying we've taken your best player, it's more of like best player on quality. Maybe last season he wasn't great, but in terms of what he can bring to a team and his potential, he's definitely close to, if not your best player.
I think Bowen outweighs him by a long shot, but and Paquetá on his day. But he's up there. He's up there on his day. When he's on form, when he's on fire, and he wants to play, he can play. the issue is you know, I started to wonder about Mo's motivations. You know, I think ironically that breakdown at Spurs was the beginning of the end for Mo. You know, and that thing when he's going around slapping people in the face and he's head-butted one and slapped two others. You know, I think that was the frustrations coming out. What he's frustrated with, I don't know. You know, maybe he was feeling that there was going to be a big bid in the summer, and he, you know, and we would let him go, and it didn't come along. Maybe he just didn't want to play for the club. Maybe he's seen something that we ain't seen. I don't know, but yeah, ironically, the mental breakdown versus Spurs when he started, you know, kung fu fighting everyone was the beginning of the end for him, and we've never really seen anything decent of him since. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that's what you speak about, because I remember, again, you were in here for a preview where we were speaking about things not going right for Kudus. This was very early on in the last season. I think we played you, 6 games in, and I think we were already, I think he had a fight with Lopetegui at the beginning of the season, and you kind of at the time, obviously it was very early on, you weren't to know at the time the season he was going to go on to have, but at the time you were saying it's because he's playing out of position, he's maybe not happy with the direction the club's going, he's not happy with the manager, so... Yes. Is that kind of the reason it went wrong? Was there more to it? Is there a mentality issue with him? Like, what would you bore it down to? Why went as badly as it did last season for him?
I think it was a mixture of all of that. I think he started to become. I know some people that personally. I'm not going to say they personally knew him, but we've got a group called the Ghanaian Hammers, and they was very close to Kudus when he first came, and from what I hear. And you know, I won't quote any guys for telling me this, but he became very distant and he became very self-involved and, you know, didn't really want to interact with anyone in terms of the football club. A bit like what Payet went through, I suppose, at the end. So, you know, when a player starts, listen, you can have all the talent in the world, you know, and Kudus, and I'm going to say this, and I think you will get, you know, you've got a fantastic player. No doubt about it. But when his mind is not on it, he's not a guy that you want in your team. You know, when things are not going his way, you know, he's hardworking, you know, robust, you know, taking everyone on and making the team shine and the team tick. It became very much a case of Mo Kudus was doing what Mo Kudus wanted to do. And if Mo Kudus couldn't do what he wanted to do, he didn't want to play. You know, and that, for me, you know, and I know every football fan should be the same. If they're not working for the team, they're not working. You know, and it is time to leave. And I've been saying for a while, you know, when it comes time to it, we knew he had the clause in his contract, the £85 million release clause. I didn't think we'd get the 85 million. We was hoping a club in Saudi would come along and activate something like that, and he would, you know, be tempted by the money. But you know, he obviously feels like he's got unfinished business in the Premier League. He's going to be playing Champions League football, which is something he was never going to be playing with for us, because we wasn't in the UEFA Cup competition. We're not going to win it through the league. So, you know, I think that's what's attracted him to Spurs. I don't think there's the queue coming out the door that he thought there was going to be, and I don't think West Ham thought there's the queue coming out the door that West Ham thought there was going to be. So I think it's a chance for him personally. And I know that a lot of Spurs fans are not going to like this, and they're going to say it's sour grapes. But I've got to say it how I see it. I think he's looking now to play that next level up, and then move again. You know, and you know, you don't want to get into that position with him because, you know, when it's not, as I said, we found out the hard way. When it's not going his way, he doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to play. You know, doesn't want to put in effort. But he is a talent, and you know, all of them. You know, them bad traits. He's got a lot of good traits. You know, if he gets working for the team, if you fit him in, if you get somewhere with a manager, if he feels that the football's going his way, if you start doing well in the Champions League, it will be fantastic. He will be fantastic. But, you know, it's down to Mo Kudus at the end of the day. So, yeah, you've got a good player.
Nicky, are you surprised about the way it kind of went down? You know, we started hearing at the beginning of the week saying, oh, Mo Kudus only wants to talk to Spurs, and you know, a lot of West Ham fans showed that as a big sign of disrespect, obviously, with the rivalry between the two clubs. So, I mean, what were your thoughts when you started hearing those kind of noises come out?
I mean, you have to think about these people's these players as people. You know, you can't just look around and say, you know, I don't personally know what Mo's family life is like. I don't know what his, you know, personal life is like. I don't know what he's settling in life is like, whether he's settled down. But you know, the distance between Stratford and Tottenham is not major. He can still, you know, live in the same house. His kids could probably go to the same school. You know, when you think about football players, you know, you've got to think about that big upheaval that they have if they go for. I hear Aaron Cresswell today's going to Stoke. That's a hell of a slap to to move your family and all that. You know. Late on in your career, so you've got to think of them as. And when you know, we was hoping Chelsea were going to come in. When Tottenham come in, he probably thought, well, you know, in terms of the way I'm settled, the way my family life is, the way my friends, my housing situation, Tottenham come in. I think it's perfect for him.
But Nicky, do you not think there's a case to say, well, maybe I'll leave the door open for a Chelsea bid to come in, or I'll leave a door open for an Arsenal, because I'm looking at Arsenal going for Madueke, and I think Kudus is a much better player than Madueke.
Again, it can be. I think he let himself down last year. I think he put off a lot. I think if he'd have performed even half the way he did at the beginning of the last season, I think he's played. But listen, I don't want to downplay Spurs, because Spurs are,
European
they're playing
champions
football. And I don't want to turn around and say, would he be better at Chelsea? Would he be better at Arsenal? At the end of the day, Chelsea and Arsenal ended up with the same amount of trophies as you. So, one of them got less. So, you know what I mean? So, you can't downplay Spurs as a football club, because, and at the end of the day, you don't know what Levy's plan is now. You're looking at today, they're looking at all of these transfers and all of these, these different deals. They're exploring these different deals. There's obviously some movement there. So, he could have been convinced by a project. There's a new manager there. They may be winning the trophy. They think is going to open the door for more. So, I can't disrespect his, his feelings, but it as a West Ham fan, it does sting. It does sting for us, because I think we should have got more money out of it, and I think that would have been.
Has he not become public enemy number one now, though, with this transfer, with the fact that he said, well, not publicly, but he said, the reports are saying he only wanted to choose Tottenham. Is this not a major betrayal? Is this not akin to a Tottenham player asking to join Arsenal, or a Liverpool player or an Everton player asking to join Liverpool? Would you not compare the two?
No, I don't think so. Because I think a lot of people, their anger is being directed at David Sullivan, and how we found ourselves in this position. How we found ourselves offloading one of our so-called superstars and having to sell to a rival. And I don't think, as I said, I've got quite a few. I mean, your fans would want me to believe that you've taken Messi off of us. You know what I mean? And we don't feel that. It's just that we all know he was going to go. We all accepted he was going to go. But I think the anger is being directed at David Sullivan, and a lot of the onus at the moment. Of course, there's going to be fans that turn around and go, you should never join them, and you should never do this, and you should never do that. But I think a majority, or at least a good amount of people, are turning around and saying like, you can't blame him. They've told him, you're not welcome here anymore. We don't want you. We are willing to sell you. And if Tottenham are the only ones in the hunt, then Tottenham's the only one in the hunt. What do you expect him to do? He cannot stay here. So yeah, it's. I don't think we will really gauge it until we play each other at the London Stadium, and then we'll start to see how much people don't like Mohamed Kudus. But I'm in that boat. As I said, personally, I don't like selling players to Tottenham. And we've had people in the chat. It's just because of an ego thing. We've had people in the chat. When we wanted to take your best players, we took your best players. We took Carrick, we took Defoe, we took Parker. We took Freddie Canute, but the difference between then and now is that that time we was in the Championship for every one of them transfers, and now we're in the Premier League, and we are competing, and people who turn around and say, we're not rivals, we're not competing. We finished 15th and you finished 17th, and we were bad, But that's up to your fan. I know you've got bigger plans, and they're going to be hoping that the Thomas Frank appointment works out, and these signings come good. But it does sting in the throat a little bit when you're selling to people that are, whether you want to admit it or not, you're in and around us in the league, and you have been for a couple of seasons, because we've been up there and we've been down there, So, yeah, I think that's the onus at the moment.
In terms of taking it back to Kudus, the player, that first season, what the player you saw in that first season, how good did you feel like he was, like in terms of like a transfer you had made, or a foreign player coming to your club? How highly did he kind of rank among those kind of players?
I think he was one of the best. I think there was only a couple I could think of that made a bigger impact than him coming straight at the bat, and one was Dimitri Payet, and the other was Paolo Di Canio. That's how far we're going back. In terms of like a player coming from a club abroad and coming in and making an instant impact. I mean, impacting the team straight away for the positive. He's one of the better ones. As I said, the only ones I can think of making a bigger impact was Dimitri Payet, and Dimitri Payet hit the ground running and he never stopped. So, as well as, and I know people are going to say that I'm sort of it's cope and all of this sort of thing, but for as good as he hit the ground running, he fucking stopped like Roadrunner at some point. You know what I mean? Like, when Roadrunner and Wiley Eco, he just and he stopped, and that was it. That was all we got out of Mo. So, as I say, if you get the player that we had last season, magnificent signing, worth every penny. You get the player that we saw the previous season just gone, you got another Richarlison on your hands, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
so
is there a case to say, Nicky, first year you played him in his strongest position consistently, and then the second year, different managers, and he was pulled around everywhere, wasn't he?
He was pulled around a little bit, and obviously different managers get different impacts out of different players. And yeah, he was asked to do a bit of a stopping job, but even when he pulled out from the right to the left when Bowen came back last season, he was still magnificent. And maybe it's I said to you, I've seen interviews with him, and I can pull them up for you, and I'm sure you'd like to see him and you'd like to share them with your audience. He prefers to play as a 10. And I know, again, people are going to say this is cope, but at 10 we've got Brazil's number 10. He wasn't great last season, but we have got Brazil's number 10. On the right, we've got Bowen, who's our best player. So, like, them two positions that he prefers to play in, I feel was taken up by players that he was never going to get in front of. So, he was chucked out a bit on the left. Maybe it was a case of, he didn't feel like he was respected. And if Spurs play him, in terms of like his best position, because as I say, when he was good, and I mean really good. So if Spurs get him and they ask him what his position is and they play him there consistently, maybe you get more of a tune out of him. Maybe it was the fact that we was pulling him around left, right, and centre that he thought he wasn't as important to the team as he thought he should be. But again, I will reiterate: if he starts with you the way he started with us, you love him. If he stops, hate him.
Again, sticking on him, the player, in terms of what really excites you about him, what he's like amazing at, and on the flip side, what he's not very good at, what you think he's going to need improving if he's going to become a top player. What would you say those two things are?
His strength, his determination, his ability to guide through players at times is second to none. Some of the best I've ever seen. His final product can be dodgy. Sometimes he'll hit one from 40 yards and it'll smash in you think, my God, that's a player, and he'll hit one at 110 miles an hour. And then he'll get into a position where he should be squaring it and he shoots and he hits the side net. And it's one of them. I think that is the difference between top players and really good players, is the fact that when they get into a position, the top players always make the right choice. But I will say this, he's only 24 years old.
Yeah, so I've seen people say he's selfish. Is he too selfish? Would you say that he's too selfish?
It's a bit selfish. But again, was it because he had a pile of shite around him? Who knows? You know what I mean? Like, we could all be, that one when you're playing in school football and you've got the worst players and you try and do everything by yourself. So, it could be a point of that. He can be selfish. He can choose the wrong decisions. But listen, you never know what might happen under Thomas Frank. You might, you might get the player and more. So, yeah, I wish him all the luck.
Yeah, in terms of that first season of West Ham, Do you feel like he's got levels even to go on that? Do you reckon he's got such a high ceiling that we haven't seen yet?
Yeah. I think if you get the right players around him, I think he's got a higher ceiling than what we saw. But again, you don't want him slipping through the floorboards. That's the problem.
That's the thing, and I think that's the big question marks. I think for a lot of Tottenham fans, the fact that he not only how he kind of acted at West Ham, but the fact he got kind of so disinterested so quickly after only a year is a bit of a red flag, which I think we have to be wary of. And I think we've seen players that's happened with other players before, and you don't want to be dealing with a player who thinks bigger things way ahead of themselves, I guess. And I think that's obviously going to be a fear if Kudus turns out to like that.
I think it was one of them ones where he was already talking about the next club before he got to the new one. So. I think playing Champions League football will help him in terms of his mentality. I think better players around him, but the way he performed last year, I can't say that really. But you'd
come
think
on, we do. Come on, we know we do.
You'd think a better quality of player around him would be, because our midfield is terrible. Let's be honest, it's awful. But a better quality of player around him, you might get more out of him. But I think it all depends. This is my personal opinion, and take it as a pinch of salt because obviously I don't know. But I think you'll get a good Champions League campaign out of him. If that ends and you don't get back into it, prepare to have a war on your hands because you will hate him if he stops playing for you like he stopped playing for us. So, yeah.
More also, we want to know: is there going to be a protest ahead of this deal? There was something being shared on social media about West Ham fans protesting the border because of this deal. Is there any truth to that?
I don't think it's because of this deal. It's just the way the club's being run. I don't think anyone, really, as I said, they're not really angry with Mohamed Kudus because, as I say, he's got to go and play his football somewhere. And at the moment, the only people putting up cash offer is Tottenham. And I think that, as I said, there's a lot of people. I don't think. I think it's more about the state of the football club and the way, you're coming off of a European trophy a couple of years ago to having some real good trips around Europe in the last 3-4 years to the point where now we can't sign fucking Aaron Cresswell back, and I think people are worried about like what the fuck is going on, so. Yeah, it's not because of this transfer. I know you'd all like to think it's because of this transfer, but it really
that's
is.
What the protest said. It said because of the transfer. That's what the thing.
I don't know what it's all. For me, it was just about how easy this deal was actually to get done. Like Sullivan and Sullivan just made it so easy for us to pinch him off your hands. Like 55 million, we were hearing Tottenham tax. We were hearing Jacob Steinberg saying that they're not going to sell him to Tottenham or they're going to make it really hard for Tottenham to sign him. But in the end, we got him cheaper than what the quoted price was.
I think they was just scared that you don't get this deal done. They was all relying on Chelsea. Which, I wouldn't want him to go to Chelsea as much as I wouldn't want him to go to Tottenham. But they was relying on Chelsea to come in for start a bidding war. And, they're trying to sell Madueke. If they're going to fucking start, why spend that sort of money when you're trying to, out a winger? I don't really understand where they thought it was coming. But they honestly thought that they was going to get something from Chelsea. And Chelsea just sort of like at the car boot sale. They just looked at the goods and walked by it, so... Yeah. Yes, it is what it is. I think in the circumstances that I don't think we've done ourselves any favours. I don't think he's done himself any favours. I think he's made us look desperate. I think he's made us look stupid. I think he's made himself look incompetent again, and I think he's made the club look tin pot. Which I know a lot of your fans will say we're already tin pot, but fucking. This is proper tin pot. You know what I mean? So,
but there's a quote. There's a direct quote from David Sullivan apparently saying, "I know West Ham fans are unhappy, but if we had 54.5 million, would they want us to spend it on Mohamed Kudus?" What do you think of that quote? Is he kind of basically saying Kudus, we've got a good deal? We've actually got more money than we should have gotten, and is that a right quote? You think you agree with him?
I think that's disgusting, to be quite honest with you, because. If Mohamed Kudus, with all of the, the bright-eyed ideas that he had last season and encouragement he had last season, if somebody would have said to me last season, would you spend £55 million on Mohamed Kudus? I'd have said double it and we'd still pay it. You know, and I think that's a little bit disrespectful. And I think, you know, I think it's a deflection of the way he's run the football club. He's running this football club into the floor, you know. And the reason that Mohamed Kudus, one of the reasons is that Mohamed Kudus didn't perform for us last season is because he can't see the future in the football club. He can't see any progress in the football club. He didn't like the manager that he brought in, and nobody liked the manager that he brought in. Yeah. So, you know, turning around and saying, would you, you know, last year he was worth double that, with all due respect, you know, and it's only your failings that have, you know, that have brought his, you know, his value down. So turning around and saying things like, oh, you know, I got the best deal for the club. Just get the fuck out of my football club, sell it and go, because you're not welcome here anymore, with all due respect. You know, I think things like that, I think that goes up there with Karen Brady turning around and saying, when they saying Bunny McCarthy had a bigger pair of tits than me. And, and with all due respect, they was in the fucking room when he was signing the contract. So if he had a bigger pair of tits than you, why the fuck did you sign him? You know? And so was he wearing a fucking trench coat or something when he was signing the deal? You know, it's just things like, I think they just embarrass themselves. So, you know, classless, as per usual from our porn baron owner, classless as a butt plug. There we go. So.
Well, it comes around pretty quickly. West Ham Spurs at the London Stadium. What, fourth game of the season in October? September. Do you feel like it could be a bit of a, you know, we all remember the scenes of when Sol Campbell returned back to Tottenham with Arsenal, bit of a pantomime villain. Do you think it will be similar?
It'd be like that. It'd be a pantomime villain. I don't think anyone really dislikes him the way you dislike Sol Campbell. I mean, that was a fucking deal and a half.
Rightly so.
And rightly so, yeah, absolutely.
Although I heard you call him Mohamed Judas yesterday on stream.
Yeah, I'm tonguing. No, at the end of the day, as I said before, I've had 24 hours to think about it, and I just think to myself, like, there's no one else here. He's not going to be able to. You know, I said this on the stream last week. He couldn't come back. Once you start talking to Tottenham, he can't really come back. You know, so yeah. I think that tongue-in-cheek Mohamed Judas, you know, he doesn't really go with my blessing. You know, I'd rather him have chosen fucking Al Hilal or whoever come in for him, but it is what it is. He wants to play in the Premier League. That's the only Premier League club that come in for him. So, yeah. So, good luck to him for a good thief.
Well, as long as he goes with your good luck blessing, that's all.
I'm sure he's waiting for that.
I'm sure he's going. I'm not going to sign the contract just
until I had the blessing. He's writing now.
The right said Fred looking geezers too.
All right, they're ready for the announcement now. I think now we've got the blessing from Nicky.
Nicky, always a pleasure to have you on the show, mate. I'm sure we're going to catch up pretty soon, and definitely
catching up pretty soon. I'm sure.
Yeah, very, very soon. But obviously September the 13th is coming around very quickly as well. But Nicky, everyone do go and subscribe to West Ham Fan TV. A lot of brilliant content going up there.
Definitely.
At this moment
You're looking for some Kudus reaction. It's a good place to go find it.
But Nicky,
we're that now, so yeah.
Thanks for coming on, mate.
Good luck, and I hope it works out for you. I really do.
Cheers, Nicky.
Thank you.